And welcome back to another Get Stuck on Sports Thumbcoast TV edition. I'm your host, Dennis Stuckey, and we're getting towards the end of the basketball season. We're whittling things down. The girls completed districts on Friday, and we'll start the regionals actually tonight. And the boys are already to the quarterfinal round. So the boys a little further along in the postseason. Let's talk about them first. And it was regionals last week. And first off, over at North Branch, a really good regional. Yale, Goodrich, St. Clair, Detroit Country Day were the four teams involved. And the first night saw a bit of an upset as Yale beat Goodrich 51-48 in just a terrific basketball game. Maybe Goodrich didn't take Yale all that serious. Maybe they were thinking about going to the regional finals like they do most every year. And Yale kind of caught them off guard and gave them a battle and actually took the lead early in the third quarter in this game after trailing the whole first half. In fact, they were down a decent amount just before halftime. And then Jackson Kohler, who hadn't scored the first 15 minutes of the game, scored 8 points in the final minute of the half to make it a 1-point game going into halftime, and Yale used that momentum to take over the game in the third quarter. They absolutely dominated the third quarter, hit a bunch of big shots. Landon Kohler made 3 3-pointers in the game, and he hit a big 3-pointer that gave Yale their first lead of the night, and they just kind of hung on from there in the fourth quarter. Goodrich finally woke up when they were down 10 points, and it looked like they were in a lot of trouble, and they cut it back to 1, but they could never get any closer than that. And Yale made enough free throws down the stretch to win the basketball game. They got enough stops on defense, and they get a big 51-48 win to move on to the regional final and knock the favored Martians out of the postseason. And that's a big win for Yale. Kohler finished with 21 points in the game. The second game of the night was between St. Clair and Detroit Country Day. This was a defensive struggle right from the get-go. Braylon Franz ended up scoring 11 points for St. Clair, but he had to work for every single one of them. Jalen Martin was on him defensively, and Jalen Martin's pretty good basketball player for Country Day, and he's not even the best guy on the team. But if I were starting a team, he's the guy that I would take just because of the way he disrupts things, causes pressure. He's so fast. He's got quick hands, causes turnovers, forces teams into mistakes. And if he needs to score, he can. But they've got 2 other guys that are pretty good at doing that. Christian Cash had 20 points in this game. And Isaiah Marino, a big center, scored 16 points in this game and at times was dominant. I feel like if Country Day wanted to, they could just throw the ball into Marino on every possession and he'd probably score 40 points a game. He's really tough to stop, but they have so many other players that they like to get the ball to, so they kind of spread the wealth there, and he doesn't score maybe as much as he could or maybe should if they needed him to. All right, so Country Day handled St. Clair, but it really wasn't until the fourth quarter that they pulled away in this game. It was a tight game going into the fourth, and then Country Day won the fourth quarter 18-8 and ended up winning the game 47-30. So it looked a lot easier in the end than it actually was. Saints played them tough, but the Saints didn't shoot well. They couldn't get much offense going. And Braylon Franz's brilliant career at St. Clair comes to a close. He was their all-time leading scorer. He was their all-time leading everything, I think, and just had a terrific career. And while they'll be disappointed with the loss, his last memory in terms of scoring will be a one-handed dunk with the left hand. It came too little too late, but there was a turnover in the backcourt, and he had a clear path to the basket. It was his easiest 2 points of the night, but he really had to work hard to get what the Saints as a team had to work hard just to get to 30 points in that one. So their season comes to an end, and that set up the final at that North Branch regional on Thursday night between Country Day and Yale. And again, a really good basketball game until about the middle of the third quarter. The Bulldogs actually took a 34-31 lead midway through the third, but then Country Day scored the last 11 points of the third quarter, and they held Yale to just 2 points in the fourth and outscored them in the last quarter and a half 22-2. Which made for the lopsided final score of 53-36 for Country Day. So they win that regional. They were the best team in that regional. Kohler did have 20 points in that game, so he had a really good regional with 21 and 20 points for Yale. But they fall for the second year in a row in a regional final. But that's the good news for Yale. This is the second year in a row they've reached a regional final. They had gone 8 previous seasons without getting out of a district. So to go to back-to-back regional finals, that program really going in the right direction. Some other regional scores: Harbor Beach beat Sandusky 55-45 in the opening game of their regional, and then needed double overtime to get past Flint International by a score of 64-62. And Harbor Beach wins their regional, and they're going to a quarterfinal that'll actually be played this week at SC4. That one's at the Field House on Tuesday at 5:30. Harbor Beach will be taking on Pontiac Arts and Technology. And before you snicker and go, who the heck is Pontiac Arts and Technology? They're the team that scored 103 points on Centerline Prep. And you know how good Centerline Prep is. They beat them 103-51 to win their regional. That's pretty impressive. So Pontiac A&T, we'll call them because that's easier to say. And they're taking on Harbor Beach. And again, that's 5:30 at SC4 on Tuesday. In the quarterfinals. The winner of that game will go to MSU and play Thursday at noon against the winner of a quarterfinal being played between Menominee and Beale City. Everybody that's left in D3 are really good and have great records, Harbor Beach included. They're 23-3 now, headed to this quarterfinal game. And the other regional that we were paying attention to, Ubley beat Cardinal Mooney 70-61 to reach a regional final at Kingston, but then they lost in the regional final to Waterford Our Lady of the Lake 59-54. So Harbor Beach is the only boys basketball team left in the Blue Water area, and they're in a quarterfinal game against Pontiac A&T on Tuesday at SC4. The ladies were in their districts. The last time we left you, they had played their first round games. So it was the semifinals on Wednesday. Ton of scores to run through. We'll do that real quick here. Anchor Bay beat L'Anse Creuse North 71-16. Port Huron High beat Dakota for the third time this season, 61-49. That set up an Anchor Bay Port Huron High district final on Friday night. We'll get to those scores in a moment. St. Clair barely got by Marine City, 40-39. The Saints escaped playing probably one of their worst basketball games of the season, while the shorthanded Mariners, who were without several key players, battled fiercely in this one, but just came up short. So St. Clair survived and made it to the district final on Friday night. The other game in that district was an absolute battle between Armada and Marysville. It went back and forth all night long. There were several lead changes, several ties. It went right down to the final possession of the game, but Marysville pulls out the mild upset here, 42-40. The Vikings win the game, and they just played terrific. They made key shots at key moments. We'll talk about Jillian Bewer in a moment when we talk about the district final that was played on Friday night, but she made 5 shots in this entire district, and all 5 were three-pointers, and they were all clutch shots that came in big moments. Elsewhere, Yale beats North Branch 38-19, 23 points for Sadie Dykstra in that win. That was expected. On the other side of the bracket, Imlay City and Croslex went to work, and Imlay City pulled away late, for a 54-44 win, setting up a Yale-Emily City District final. Cass City knocked out Harbor Beach 55-23. Sandusky smothered Memphis 44-14, while Brown City beat Marlette 48-33, setting up a Sandusky-Brown City final. That they were the top two teams in the Big Thumb Black this year. Sandusky had beaten Brown City twice. We'll tell you how round 3 went in just a moment. It was Bloomfield Hills Sacred Heart knocking Cardinal Mooney out 47-21. Deckerville 42, Kindy North Huron 6. And Ubley beat Deckerville 44-34, setting up a Deckerville-Ubley district final on Friday night. So let's get to Friday night. First, it was Anchor Bay and PH at Dakota. The first time these two teams met in the regular season, Anchor Bay won in a landslide. They won by 25 points over the Red Hawks. PH gave them a better battle this time around, but Anchor Bay is really good. 51-43, the Tars win this one. They move on to a regional. Marysville and St. Clair. St. Clair had handled Marysville back in December, beat them by 12 points. They were the team that was coming into this district. They were one of the favorites, and they really didn't have a good district. Marysville actually ended up killing them, 48-36. 21-3, the Vikings outscored the Saints from the three-point line. They hit 7 threes in the game, including 5 in the first quarter. But Jillian Bewer hit 2 to open the fourth quarter, and that put Marysville ahead to stay. And they go on to win from there. Harper Sharrow scored 20 points in this game. She knocked down 3 three-pointers. Along with Bewer in the win. And Kendall Quain scored exactly 15 points, and that's what she averaged for the 3 games in the tournament, was 15 points a game. Very steady for them. Marysville played terrific defense. The Saints never, other than the second quarter, they had a run in the second quarter where they outscored Marysville 18-4, and they actually had at one point a 10-point lead early in the third quarter, and then Marysville just took over and won that ball game, actually going away. So Marysville moves on to the regional. So does Yale, but it wasn't easy. Yale was supposed to coast through this district, and yeah, they beat North Branch by 19, but they struggled with Emily City. With 2 minutes to go, it was a 2-point game, but Yale pulls out the 42-33 win, led again by Sadie Dykstra, who had 20 points in this game. So Yale does what they're supposed to do. They win their district, and they move on to the regionals. Sandusky beat Brown City. This was round 3. Sandusky had actually blown Brown City out twice during the regular season, and those are the only 2 league losses for Brown City. This was a much closer game, but Sandusky smothered them again, 33-29. The Lady Wolves move on to the regionals, and Deckerville moves on to the regionals. The Lady Eagles beat Ubley 33-24. Regionals start Monday night for the ladies, and at Warren Cousino, Anchor Bay will take on Troy Athens. At North Branch, and this is where I'll be watching these games, Marysville is taking on Goodrich. Goodrich has not lost a game this season, but after watching Marysville the last 2 games that they've played, I give them a chance against anybody. Yale plays Warren Regina. This is a battle of titans. Regina, a really good team. So you got 4 really good basketball teams in this regional. The shame is only one of them will survive. Sandusky plays Genesee tonight. That's over at Burton Bendel. And Deckerville plays Clarkston Everest in another regional semifinal game. And just one more note from girls basketball. This actually happened a week ago, back last Monday in the regional opener up at Yale. North Branch and Elmont played. North Branch won the game, and Aubrey Deshetsky in that game set a North Branch school record with 28 rebounds. 28 rebounds. If you don't know a lot about basketball, that's a lot of rebounds. 15 is a lot of rebounds. 28 is a ridiculous amount. and it's a school record. So congratulations to Aubrey Dushetsky of North Branch setting a school record there. All right, that's all the time we have for this week, but we'll be back next week with another edition of the Get Stuck on Sports Thumb Coast TV edition. I'm Dennis Stuckey. Thanks for watching.